Hi, orchestra students. Welcome back to the orchestra room. And it's so energizing to walk in the doors and think of each of you. You are kind, you're full of energy, you're enthusiastic and hardworking, and you're leaders, you're dedicated to your instruments and to being an amazing person. But there's one thing you're not, and that is here. And it makes me choke up a little bit. But I get to be here, and I get to think of all of you, and prayers that we all get to be here together soon. So anyway, for today's assignment, what's inside your case? I would like to demonstrate what's inside my case. This is my precious violin. It has a name. I'd like to introduce my violin. Its name is Magic. I've renamed my violin just once. When I first came up with the name, about a week went by and it just didn't feel right. And then it hit me. Every time I touch this, and I'm feeling it right now, I feel magic. And when I practice and when I perform, I feel magic. So I'd like to introduce Magic. A couple things else accompany my violin in the case. And I'll first address is my rosin. So I'm going to go to rosin next, and I'd like to show that I'm using the Dark Hill rosin. And this is actually a cello rosin. And the reason I love the Dark Hill rosin is because it's a little bit more tacky than the Hill Light or another regular light rosin. The darker the rosin is, the tackier it's going to be. So for violin and viola players, if you're interested in getting something on your bow that has a little bit more stick, I recommend a darker rosin. That does not mean that cello players need to look for some base rosin. That is a big no-no. You never want to use something that tacky. I was going to hold up a different case of rosin to compare, and so there you go. You've got the light and the dark rosin. Okay, so what is in your case and what kind of rosin do you have? This rosin is getting a little bit beat up, but it's still got some good life in it. You're just going to take your sandpaper and buff out those scratches a little bit like that. Never do this over your instrument. And you're gonna create a nice little film of dust there, and then that's gonna come off onto your bow hair really great. Okay, so there's your rosin, and it wouldn't hurt to have a little piece of sandpaper in there as well into your case. Just keep it in there. Okay, next, with your shoulder rest, violin and viola players, not optional. I've met one student who was just really set on not using a shoulder rest over the last 29 years, and once we got them fixed up with a shoulder rest, it changed their playing completely. We need a shoulder rest. The combination of our chin rest and shoulder rest is everything to our playing position and the ease at which we can then play our instrument. So your shoulder rest needs to be fitted for you. Hopefully you've got adjustable feet here and you are feeling comfortable with it. Oftentimes, as we set up, this angle right here needs to be adjusted. You might need to go down this way a little bit or up this way a little bit, and then you'll get to where you know just where it needs to be every time you put it on. Okay, so make sure your shoulder rest is not one of those crazy ones that makes you frustrated because it's falling off every few minutes during rehearsal. Now's the time. Get these rubberized feet either replaced or just get a different shoulder rest if it's not working for you. I happen to have here in the orchestra room several extra shoulder rests, and these fit either a 3/4, this is a 3/4 or half size, and I've got several that fit a 3/4 or a full size violin, which is the same as a 14-inch viola. So I've got several, like a dozen of them. I would love to give you, and you can keep them. So if you're one of the upper strings players that doesn't have a shoulder rest, reach out to me and let me know, and we'll make sure we get one in your happy little hands, okay? Okay. Next is chin rest for violin and viola players. What is on your instrument? I've replaced my chin rest probably 3 times. I changed it when I first got my violin, and then I changed it again in college, and then I changed it in the last 15 years. I know, remember I'm 100. But anyway, it just was affecting my jaw, and I don't know if I'm getting older and more stronger, just kidding, and it just was affecting me weird. I don't know if I'm clenching my jaw or what I was doing, but it's been a long time since I've had this particular shoulder rest on, and as you can see, it doesn't have any of those bumps in it that normally they have, and it just it feels so much better. So there's so many different styles of chin rest, excuse me, out there that we really got to get this combination right for you. Okay, so if you're a violin or viola player and you're not feeling a great setup and you can't do this without having to squeeze your shoulder high in the air, or you feel like you're biting your jaw, or you have something crazy pushing into your chin or jawbone, then you don't have your setup right. Okay, the next piece of equipment I'd like to show you in my case is my bow. And this is a carbon fiber bow. And of course that bow is nice and loose when you take it out, and when you get it to the right tightness, it should be about a finger width or a pinky distance, about like that apart, a little bit bigger for cello players. Bass players, you're probably able to stick your whole hand like right through there. And remember that it should always be loose when you pack it up. Okay, a couple things I want you to check about your bow. My bow happens to be particularly dirty right here at the frog, and I don't like that. And Zach, my son, who's a senior this year, hi Zach, plays my violin because it's his favorite out of the several that we own. So he's also using this bow. This happens to be the Diamond series within the Coda Bow brand. And so if you want to check that out online, we're using the Diamond bow. Okay, so I'm gonna like take my rosin and I'm gonna just try to clean up this frog a little bit. And I want you to look at your own bow and see how clean it is and how evenly dispersed the rosin is. The best way to look at the rosin on your bow, so you can tell that that part's getting a little bit whiter right now, is look down your bow like this. Just hold it at the frog, tilt it so that you can look straight down the hair, and you're gonna see either whiter spots than other, and the other will look more yellow, or you'll see clusters of dust, or just where you've rosined more excessive than other places. Make sure that you even those spots out by getting a nice full bow stroke after having scrubbed different parts of your bow. So often the tip doesn't get quite enough, and then when you get to those long bows and you're playing in the upper half, you get this wimpy sound, and it's not just because of strength or pressure, it's because there's not enough rosin on your bow. So go ahead and embrace the rosin inspection when you start filling this assignment, okay? So that is the bow. If you look down your bow like this and you turn and you look at that wood and you see any waffle in the stick, that's called a warp. That's going to affect your playing pretty severely. It's going to be really hard to control that bow. It's going to not want to bow straight, and it's going to probably bounce, and it is just setting ourselves up for a disaster. So I would say that your bow is the #1 priority right now into being a really important element in making you a successful string player. If your bow's not savvy, it's going to be so much work, and you could be working relentlessly for trying to solve a problem that could just be fixed with a different stick. So if you're interested in hunting for a new bow, I really recommend a carbon fiber bow, just because we live in the extreme heat, and the wood is a great investment. A wood stick is a great investment, but wood can warp. And so I've kind of changed my thinking. I've had amazing wood bows in the past, and I am about the carbon fiber these days. So, okay, so we're gonna check out your bow when you get in your case, all right? Now, the next part is your strings. The strings on your instrument need to be alive. What do I mean by alive? Well, if they're dead or they've been on there longer than you can even remember, the pitch is not going to be bright and stay nice and in tune. It's going to be flat, and it's going to fall after you do an open bow. So why don't you take a nice sweep of an up bow on an open string, and the pitch actually went sharp. Did you hear that? It went up. That's an alive string. Okay, let's test the D. Same. The pitch isn't going D. It's going D, like that. Okay, here's the G. Oh, strings are so cool. I just love that sound of it ringing and ringing and ringing, and you hear all the vibration through the wood. Okay. Boy, that went right up. Okay, violin players, I'd like to let you know that I am playing with a, this is the Eva Perossi E string within the Perostro brand. Eva, E-V-A-H. These are pretty pricey strings, but I've loved them. It's the gold series. So we've got Perostro and you've got the gold series. So you see this winding down here, every string is wrapped in gold. Another great name for strings is dominant. And you just want to make sure that you are not playing on the $6 set of metal strings. That is not what we want to play on. Otherwise you're going to get a really metal wiry sound and you're not going to be happy with it. It's going to be quite painful actually to your ears. Okay, so we've addressed strings and your chin rest and your shoulder rest and your bow and cellos. You players, you should have in your case at all times a strap, and bass players, you should have a rock stop. So I'd like to demonstrate. The rock stop can look like this, and I've got a drawer of probably 20 of those, and so you're welcome to have one. Any cello player, keep one in your case at all times. When you're practicing or performing and you end up on a surface, the flooring is something that slips, this will keep you playing in good shape. Okay, your end pin's not going to slip as this sits on the floor and your end pin just props right against that. Okay, a strap I don't have here, and I don't want to step away and take your time to go demonstrate a strap, but the strap is like what we use in the concerts. Has a loop on one end of it, hooks under your chair, and then it's an adjustable strap. And then there's a little place to receive your end pin. Okay, other elements that are in my case, I've got a cleaning cloth, and this cloth never gets wet. Never, never, never. This particular cloth does not even get polish on it. This is a dry cloth used for wiping my rosin. Again, we live where it's 1,000 degrees outside, and it takes very little heat for that rosin to start sticking and building up on the surface of your instrument. So go ahead and make sure you have a nice cloth in your case at all times for wiping down after rehearsal, okay? A couple other cool things I'd like to show you in my case. I do happen to have a practice mute that I keep, and this is a gift to anybody else around you if they are trying to do some other activity than listen to you practice. Can you believe that our families might want to not hear us practice 24 hours a day? I actually got one of these for Christmas when I was 15, and my family was kind of tired of me hearing me practice at 11:30 and 12 o'clock at night, and so I got this for Christmas one year. My family was so happy. But anyway, this practice mute is a nice big piece of rubber that fits over the whole bridge. Look at that. And then listen to the difference in the playing. Without it. So if your parents are listening, they're gonna say, what just happened? And we are ordering you a practice mute today. Just kidding. The other kind of mute that I have on my violin all the time is just a little mute that fits right there and slides up and touches the bridge. And that's just a regular consordino that you see in your music sometimes with the mute. It's a little softer, but definitely not to the degree that the practice mute is. Okay, I've got one last item in here that I love having in my case, and this is a little metronome that's a clip. This can clip on your clothes. This can clip on your stand. I have used this how many times on my ear? I know, looks weird, doesn't it? But you get that click, 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 click right in your ear, and I'm telling you, it holds you accountable. It's kind of different than having your phone on the stand, because to me that's not very loud. Even as loud as you crank it, it's never loud enough to hear over our playing. So I love my little practice metronome. If you want one, it's just called a clip-on metronome. Okay, that's what's in my case. Checking for strings, making sure they're alive, checking for your bow to make sure there's no warp in it and that you've got plenty of horsehair and you're not missing half of it or it's falling out or something like that. You've got to have a bow that will allow you to get the right tension. And I want to know what kind of rosin you've got. And now is the time to investigate chin rest, shoulder rest. Is this combination allowing you to hold your instrument properly? Go ahead and put it on. Look in the mirror. Ask someone to check and see if you're raising your left shoulder in order to hold that perfectly. It should be resting and your chin should be setting, and then that should be super savvy for you. Okay, that's what's in my instrument case, and I can't wait to see what's in yours. I would like to show and tell one last item. I brought my very first violin that I actually have for display in my living room at home, and it is missing a string right now, but this was my grandfather's violin, and he learned it when he was a boy, and he passed it on to my mom, and my mom learned violin when she was a girl, and she went on to learn how to play the oboe and the saxophone. In fact, she learned how to play the saxophone so well that she used to play on the radio in her college days. How cool is that? But anyway, this is really precious to me. It's a full-size violin, so that's all that we had when I started in 4th grade. So I was playing on an instrument that was quite a reach for me. But it was my grandpa's, and Grandpa actually lived with us during the time when I started playing the violin. My mom and dad were caring for him within our home, and he eventually went blind in our home. And I would set goals for personal and spiritual growth and track my hours that I would perform for Grandpa and practice for Grandpa. Just to say thank you for inspiring me and my mom and giving her the opportunity to learn how to play and music lessons, and then him allowing that to be passed on to me. So this is pretty special, and I've never named it, but if I did, I might just name it Stanley after my grandpa. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I can't wait to hear from you as you complete this assignment. Okay, see ya, bye.